this hour with news of what can only be described as an historic agreement. It will see thousands of gold miners compensated for contracting silicosis or tuberculosis. It's the first class action settlement of its kind in South Africa and affects miners who worked at several mines from 1965 until now. Compensation will be paid to ill workers or their dependents. Let's get details of this and how it's all going to work. I'm joined on the line from Johannesburg by attorney Richard Spoor. Mr. Spoor, good afternoon to you, sir. Thank you very much. Indeed, can you give me the details of how we got to this point? It has been an ongoing court case for a number of years.
Yeah, it began in 2005 when we litigated on behalf of Mr. Thembekile Mankai to establish the right of workers to take legal action against the mine owners. That litigation was concluded in 2011 when the Constitutional Court ruled in favor of the workers, and then began this class action process. And that's been just over 6 years in the making and going. The last 3 years have been a parallel with the litigation. There have been discussions between the industry and the claimants' lawyers, and that has culminated today in a settlement agreement. That agreement must still be ratified by the court. They must approve it, and interested parties must have an opportunity to comment, to object, and to make an election whether they're going to abide by the agreement and go under it, or whether they choose not to be part of this agreement.
I understand that obviously this has been a very protracted and, as you said, 2005, this court case and similar began. Can you help me understand, Richard, why would the mining companies not want to pay up for all the damage that has now clearly been judged on has been caused to these workers?
Yeah, you know, from our perspective, their culpability has always been clear. I think the industry's official approach has been that they did everything they could, and they're very sorry about the harm that occurred. You know, I'm really glad they've come around to a position where they're taking responsibility and are prepared to make a very substantial contribution towards undoing some of the harm that has been occasioned to workers these last 100 years.
Oh, for the families now, I imagine this is going to be the end of a very, very long chapter for them, but many of these workers might not be around. I know I mentioned in my intro to you that there are dependents who may be able to benefit from this. How far down the family tree would this go? Any idea?
Yeah. The focus is on widows and immediate dependents. There's a bit of a, you know, for widows it's actually quite difficult. This is a legal case and a legal dispute, and the common law, you know, requires widows to prove the cause of death of their husbands, and that's quite difficult because most people don't have post-mortems, they don't have access to, you know, first-rate medical care, and so proving your claim, if you like, for a widow is extremely difficult, and very few people will do that. So what's happened is we've reached a kind of a compromise. We've made it much easier for widows to claim, so they don't have to prove the cause of death. But the price of that inclusivity is a smaller benefit. So to the extent that we've enjoyed a discretion in structuring this deal, we've tried to be more inclusive than exclusive. So we've spread what money there is available for the settlement more widely rather than keep it narrower. So the range of benefits to which people might be entitled ranges from 70,000 Rand to 500,000 Rand in the most severe cases. But that's about the spectrum, and widows are on the lower end of that spectrum, around about 100,000 Rand.
Let's talk about spectrum for a moment, Richard, if you don't mind. So from 1965 until now is my understanding of it. What happens with everything and technology that is now in place, workers from here on going forward in gold mines contract silicosis and tuberculosis? Will this kind of class action suit come into play for them as well?
Well, you know, there's a 12-year window, which is the life of the trust. But when this trust expires in 12 years' time, then it's going to be, you know, unless something has happened to change things, unless the law has changed to improve compensation for workers, and the miners have taken effective measures to stop people getting these diseases, this thing is going to happen again. So, but we do believe that this kind of litigation is a powerful incentive to employers to take effective measures. We believe that one of the reasons why this epidemic has been so bad and so much harm has been done is simply because there was no accountability, there was no civil sanction, there was no criminal sanction. Mines operated with impunity, and there were no consequences for the terrible harm that was done.
Do you see this sort of judgment now having an effect on other mine industries, not gold mine particularly, but other industries where miners may have a claim against a mining company?
Yeah, we are working on coal mining now, and claims on behalf of coal mine workers with coal workers' pneumoconiosis and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. So the next round of claims, we began with asbestos, this is gold, and now we're moving on to coal. Who knows where we go from there.
Richard, I know that you are very busy. I was going to ask one final question. I may have missed the answer. For the payment now, the payouts essentially that are being awarded, is there a timeline for that? I know you say there's a number of processes. When are we going to start seeing payments for widows and those who were affected?
Because of the notice requirements, we don't expect the court to confirm the agreement, ratify it, and for all the notice periods and the opt-out provisions to be come into effect before about September, October this year. It's at that point that the trust will begin its work identifying people and paying compensation.
Richard Spoor, thank you very much indeed, sir, for taking time to speak to us this afternoon. Attorney Richard Spoor giving us details of what really can only be described as this historic judgment just a short while ago. Thousands of gold miners to be compensated after they had contracted silicosis or tuberculosis from 1965 all the way back then up to now. Of course,